Hey, what's up guys? My name is Boda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we do have quite a few updates coming from Bombax miner. There has been some pretty big changes to the EZ100-C. Those specs got bumped up, but so did the price, right? So we're going to talk about those changes, kind of give our opinion on it, as well as a brand new model. So there is now a new flagship model, is the EZ100 Pro, right? Which is even higher specs than that big boy EZ100, right? So we're going to talk about that guy in detail. We'll look at profitability and we'll kind of just give our thoughts and opinions on it, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So we'll start with the EZ100-C. This is the one to me out of the bunch that's the most appealing for sure. So biggest changes here. Specs did get bumped up. They are now bumped up to 3800 mega hash over the previous 3200 mega hash. So nice little increase there. The wattage also goes up though, right? It's now up to 760 watts in that regular mode. The efficiency remained the same though. So we're still at 0.2 joules a mega hash. So we're still looking good there. What I'm not a fan of though is the price also went up, right? So the price is now from their site $49.50. Most retailers have it in the $4,800 region. And this is kind of a change from that like $4,200 price point we're at, right? Which I was a bigger fan of that because it seemed like we're probably going to get like right below 4, potentially, just depending on how things were going. But now with this increase, not a huge fan, right? Especially if there's no change in the specs. Okay, if they added a few more chips, they added that more RAM, because that was a big downfall with these things, was that limited 5.18 gigs of RAM. Especially in comparison to like the Jazz miner having that 8, it gives you more of an advantage, be able to mine other coins. They didn't highlight that on here, so I'm assuming there is not going to be no change to the RAM. It's hard to say if they added more chips, because again, these things haven't released yet, so we have nothing to compare it to. Okay, so all we do know is that the specs got bumped up, so whether it's hardware changes or just different clocks, we have yet to find out, right? So not the biggest fan of this, especially because people pre-ordered this thing already. So people pre-ordered, and unfortunately they got a notice that they had to pay the difference in price in order to continue to get that unit. Okay, so for any guys who did pre-order this thing, let me know who you purchased it from and what ended up happening there. Did they have you pay the difference? How much of a difference? I believe the difference is anywhere from 600 to 800 depending on who you purchased it from and at what price you got it at. Right, because it has fluctuated a bit since release. So let me know how they handled it. Did they give you an option to keep it? It's not very clear if they did make a batch of 3200s or if they're just converting them all to 3800. Because if they're just converting them all to 3800, that kind of gives more credence to the thought that it's most likely just a different clock potentially. Which again, not a big fan. Maybe they should have made that clear right off the get-go just for it to make more sense, right? Because then realistically, if they just clocked it higher and saw it consistently got the same hash and they decided to bump it up, that's fine, but they should have kept the price the same, right? So kind of, at least especially for those who pre-ordered. Maybe future batches, give them that, but realistically, it would have probably been a better look for them, especially being a new manufacturer, to just whoever decided to take the leap of faith and pre-order it, they should have just hooked them up and kept it at that same price and maybe changed future orders to this future price, right? So kind of a weird move, not a huge fan of that, but it is what it is. So as we look at profitability, when we plug it into a calculator, again, this is just ETC. Just keep in mind that you can do ETC plus ZIL. We're just doing this for comparison purposes, but it does bring up the profitability a little bit. Also keep in mind where we're at in the market. Things are looking kind of crappy, so that's why profitability has gone down. So your daily revenue would be about $6.75. Your electric at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, $1.82 for a total profit of about $5, right? So not terrible overall, especially just considering the conditions, guys. That's the biggest thing. And then factor in that there is always a premium for these like at-home type ASICs. Again, this is something that you can have indoors. It's quiet. You don't need 240 volts. So definitely cool features there. As far as why they bumped up the specs, I'm assuming maybe they just, it's hard to say, right? But like quickly glancing at it, what is pretty close to this? 2 Jazz Miner X16Qs, right? Realistically, if it is a different clock, or maybe they should have just clocked it to like freaking 3900, just because that brings it at exactly 2 of these guys, right? For like a marketing purpose, oh, it's the power of 2 jazz miners for about the same hat or same power, right? Because this guy's coming in at 620 watts versus this guy, the 760, for literally about the same hash. So it's almost twice as efficient, right? So that would have definitely been a good little marketing gimmick, little marketing ploy. So just something interesting. But again, any guys who pre-ordered this thing, let me know how your reseller, who you ordered it from, and how they handled it, right? So just kind of curious on that front. Another interesting thing here is some of the vendors are listing 2 models, right? So we did get this increase. Some are listing a 3800 and a 3600, which is kind of weird. So it's hard to say if there's going to be different variants. Maybe some didn't bin as well. It's hard to say what the deal is, but something we will keep an eye on. Actual street price, again, it's a more closer to like under 5K, right? So they have it listed at 4950, but like ETHash, for example, has it at 4900 currently, right? Just depending on how things go or price action goes, how they are selling. Maybe they'll go down a bit because, again, when they were closer to that $4,200 range, especially if they went under 4, like I think that would be a big thing for a lot of people to see that $39.99 price tag. That would make it more appealing for them to take that jump, right? So kind of a weird move. Let's talk about this next miner, and again, similar kind of thing where I'm just not a fan of this, right? So let's talk about what it is. So this is the EZ100 Pro. Okay, so there was the EZ100, which is pretty crazy specs, right? 12,500 mega hash at 2,300 watts, so definitely a big boy, and had a big boy price tag. Okay, so now though, we do have a EZ100 Pro, which has slightly less efficiency, right? So it brings it down because the EZ100 was at 0.18. This guy is at 0.20, brings it up to 15,500 mega hash at 3,100 watts. Okay, so just looking at the specs, kind of have the same questions. Hopefully it is more chips, maybe 1 chip per board or whatever the heck they were able to do. Hopefully it's hardware changes and not just clock differently to achieve these results, because again, that would be another not so good situation if it's literally just clocked higher and they're charging that premium. So I'm hoping that it's because there is an increase in hardware, but again, they didn't really give us anything to go by. And again, if you're going to pay the premium and this is your performance edition, it would have been nice for them to also increase the RAM size, which they didn't put anything in the description here. So hopefully if any guys are interested, I would reach out if that's a factor for you to find out and confirm. But to me, that would have been a big selling point, because that was a big complaint from a lot of us, is that just that limitation in that. So, but realistically, if they would have changed that, I would think that this would have been a highlight in the specs here. So I'm not too optimistic that that was changed. Another thing to consider is that a big appeal with like the EZ100 and why people decided to go with it were because it was a monster, it was the best. Typically you pay that premium for getting that best, right? But then a few weeks later for them to release a new best, a new flagship model, kind of sucks. Because I mean, bro, like if you're willing to pay 15.6, you probably would have been willing to pay a few thousand more to just get the top of the line model to just kind of be done with it, right? So again, another kind of a crappy situation. I wish they would have like made that known from the beginning. Maybe even if it wasn't readily available, maybe when this guy was listed, they could have put a pre-order for that one just so people knew that there was going to be a bigger one so they could potentially wait for it. It does kind of suck for them to get kind of suckered into this guy only to release this other guy a little bit later. Okay, so I'm not the biggest fan of that. Kind of similar situation to like the Alpha Packs, right? Again, a lot of people got that guy because that was the better model, and then weeks later, the DG1 Plus comes out, right? I know that did annoy quite a few people because if they would have known, they would have just gone for that guy, right? And again, if time passed, if it was like 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, then I get it, right? But for literally weeks later for them to do this, not the biggest fan of that, right? So, but again, that's kind of the thing with these new manufacturers. They're kind of experimenting with things. Maybe they just decided it's a better fit, or different hardware configurations, whatever was going on, it just is what it is, right? So just something to take note of. As we look at profitability of this guy, it's pretty good, right? Let's go to, I had it set up. Let's set it up again. So as we come over here, we'll plug it in. So 15.5, Let's change this to ETC. 15.5. Oop. At, what was it, 3,100? Yeah, 3,100, man. That's a big boy. All right, so let's calculate it. So your daily revenue would be about 27 bucks. Your electric would be about $7.44. Add a 10-cent kilowatt hour, bringing your profitability to about 20 bucks a day. Right, so factor in, number one, the climate we're in. I mean, even factoring that in, though, for spending 20K on this thing is not the hottest thing in the world, right? So this is one of those things where you have to be bullish on ETC, or if you are bullish on Octa, or just also keep in mind that this is just ETC. You could do ETC plus ZIL, so that will increase the revenue, right? We're just doing ETC just for comparison purposes. But factor those things in, just make sure that you would have to be bullish on this, because if you just compare for straight profitability, it's at 20K, it is kind of a hard pill to swallow, especially coming from an unknown manufacturer, right? And that's kind of my deal with it, that it's hard to take the plunge on an unknown manufacturer for this amount of cash, considering the other things that are available for, in many cases, less than that are just as profitable, right? If anything, that's why for me, realistically, this guy is more appealing just because of the lower price entry and fairly similar efficiency, right? So again, you are paying a premium. It is cheaper overall to just get one of the bigger guys. But for the 4 to 5K range, it's definitely easier entry point, easier pill to swallow if it's not the best ASIC, right? So to take that risk, it's kind of rough, right? So especially for the current profitability, and again, just it's the market is also down, but when we look at other things in that same price range, that's where it kind of gets like squirrely, right? Because even like other new ASICs, for example, with the L9 coming out here in a few months, your revenue is fairly similar for something that's nearly half the price, right? And it's definitely a much more, potentially, again, we don't know, it's not out yet, but potentially most likely a more reliable ASIC. Parts availability, Bitmain tends to be repairable, a little more reliable, and potentially more durable, right? So again, for me at least, the way I view it, for me to take the risk on these newer manufacturers, the price has to be extremely enticing. And realistically, when we compare it to the other models, yes, it is kind of priced kind of fair, but it's just, it's a hard sell just because there's so many other ASICs that could potentially bring in as much revenue currently, right? So it's hard to recommend, all right? I know some of you guys did purchase one. Let me know how that's been going. Let me know kind of what you think about this situation also. Did this kind of annoy you? Like realistically, would you have just gone for the Pro if you were made aware of it, or you just stayed with that one anyway? Kind of weird there, right? So again, it's a hard sell at this price point, but people are interested, and if they're not, they're gonna just be forced to lower the price, right? Because in reality, they can price it wherever they want. If nobody's buying the thing, they are gonna have to lower the price, or if more competition comes out, then they're gonna have to do something about it, right? Because we know, like Jazzminer, for example, they have their X44 coming, but most likely from rumor mills, it's potentially not till end of year or even as late as Q1. Hopefully this coming week at Mining Disrupt, maybe we get an update. Hopefully that will give us at least a timeline, right? That way we know whether it's sometime this year or next year, because then that definitely does change things, right? Then the value prop for this thing does kind of change a little bit, right? Because those are currently the leaders. Will there be a E11 Pro from Bitmain or something? Really hard to tell. Realistically, I wouldn't guess until potentially sometime next year when we're in the full swing of the bull market. But then again, who freaking knows, right? And again, that's a major risk with any of these smaller manufacturers, is just the chance of like a bigger, better miner, right? Especially considering the E9 Pro has been out for going on a year and a half now, right? So it is due for a refresh. Are they going to have anything? Maybe, maybe not, right? It's one of those things you have to just think long term, and even if something does come out, you have to be comfortable with that possibility, right? There's always extreme risk, number one, with altcoin ASICs, number two, with just buying these other manufacturers. Okay, so just keep those things in mind for you guys who are interested. But hopefully these do end up being good ASICs. More competition is always definitely wanted, because it's just better for us as the consumer, right? At the end of the day, we want better options, we want better prices, and we want better hardware, right? Because this just pushes innovation and it pushes better prices. And again, it's just better for us overall, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys. Are you interested in any of these? Did this kind of turn you off a little bit? I know it did kind of turn me off. Is it saying that, oh, they're the worst company in the world? That's not saying that either, right? I'm just not a fan of how they handled this. Maybe if they had more representation or something coming out, like, it's hard to say because we're basing it off of just this website, right? They're not really active anywhere. We don't really see them. They will be a mining disrupt though, so I'm going to be curious to see what they say, see what they answer, or if there's any other announcements, or what the deal is, what's going on, right? Maybe we'll get some updates there, especially if we do hear something from the competition, then maybe we'll see something, right? So let me know what you guys think though. Let me know how you guys are liking it. I know some of you guys did get that EZ100. Let me know how that's been going. And just give me your thoughts and opinions on it, right? So please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching, and I am out.